Hello and welcome. I'm Victoria. I'm a little bit nervous about doing this because these are the first books that I read in 2026 that I'm presenting to you. And I have two arcs included. I have a classic book. I have ones that I've been wanting to read for a while that had meant something to me of why I wanted to read them. And then I have some that I just really wanted to start this year off with. And these are ones from my list that I had given, the winter and the 2026 list, and then an extra one that wasn't even on my list. This one might be a little bit longer because these are 9 books that I read, and today is the 13th as I record this. So the fact that I finished 9 books in 13 days and I've started 2 other books, yeah, it's a lot. I don't know. One day I'll probably talk about how I'm able to read so much, because this has not always been the case for me. It's just where I am in life right now of how I'm able to do this. Everyone's at a different pace. But I hope that these books will inspire you and that you'll enjoy learning about them. I'm going to start with one of the arcs, Miss Over the Channel Islands. This one I got from the publisher. It comes out February 3rd. I just loved the cover of this because I love bicycles. I feel like if I were to do like a bingo, my prompt has to be a bicycle in a book, because that's just like, as soon as I see a bicycle, I want to read it. When it comes to like Christian fiction, like this book is, historical Christian fiction, that definitely adds to it. I really love this book. This is definitely a great way to start the year. It wasn't my very first book that I finished this year, which I will get to which one I read first, but it's the first one I thought that I should talk about. I was a little worried that this was going to be like the Guernsey Potato Peel Society book, which I read in the autumn time and I was kind of disappointed by. It wasn't a bad story, but I did learn a lot about World War II in the Channel Islands, and Guernsey is one of those. But this one is on the island of Jersey, also a Channel island. The main character is Ivy. She is a doctor. She lives with her family. She really loves her family. She comes from a line of doctors. She's very well respected in her town and the area that she lives. The Second World War breaks out. Their little island is going to be occupied by the German soldiers. The Nazis are coming, and she's really concerned about it. They are evacuating some people out. She decides she will stay to care for the people there because they need a doctor. And also who stays behind is her older sister, who is married, and also her brother, who is younger than her by quite a bit. He's only 16, 17 years old, and he goes to school to be a doctor, but because of everything, it gets put on hold and he has to get work. And he decides he's not going to go to school because it's just too difficult at that time. Then there's another perspective of Garrett. Garrett is a Dutchman. He is part of the Dutch resistance army. He has friends that are involved and he doesn't know where they are, but one of his best friends wants to go enlist to be a part of the German soldiers in their army, to work undercover, to do resistance work so that they can maybe tell people about where they are and try to get a way to end the war faster. But this is very difficult for him because he does not want to be associated as a Nazi. So he has to do his best to do what he loves, to care for people while being quiet. He ends up going to the Channel Islands and he interacts with the brother of Ivy. His name is Charlie, and he is such a great character, her brother. I really love his determination. He doesn't really have fear. I have a 17-year-old son, so I can't imagine my son going through a war and having to decide what he wants to do to provide for his family or to maybe work with people. And Charlie is very inquisitive, but he's also very observant and understanding. He's so good. And then Ivy's older sister, Fran, she's a bit problematic. I really struggle to like her character. She's a little bit jealous of her younger sister, Ivy, even though she doesn't really have a reason to be. She blames her sister for quite a lot of things. They have some drama that happens between them throughout the book. So anyway, this book is a love story between Ivy and Garrett, but she does not find him to be attractive after she finds out he's a Nazi, which she doesn't realize he's not, but she at first sees him and thinks he's attractive till she realizes what uniform he is wearing. So there's a lot of hard decisions she has to make to try to help the people there. It becomes, because it's occupied for so long, it goes through what some of the people there's slave labor, really heavy duty slave labor of mainly people from Russia and Ukraine and different countries from Eastern European areas. And Garrett is really struggling to be involved with what he does, but he's an engineer and he is able to make maps and different things like that to try to help in the effort. I really loved this story. There were parts that seemed slightly slow, but just a lot of the story was beautiful. I enjoyed learning. I really thought that it was cool how they incorporated some of the historical things so that way you would understand what people might have gone through sincerely over there. For content, this is a war war story, so there are some issues of violence towards people. And because she's a doctor, there are sometimes wounds that she's caring for that is talked about. It is a clean story. It's lovely. There is talk about someone being unfaithful in their marriage. No details are given. There is torture, starvation, and different things like that in this. So if that's a problem for you to read about the hardships of war and what comes out of it, then I'd say skip it, but this is really good. For those of you who want to read this book, please do so when it comes out. I think you'll enjoy it. And guess what, guys? I read it. I read the 6th volume of Emma M. Lyon. It was so good. Definitely enjoyed the story. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as the 3rd book, especially. This book is perfect for this time of year. It starts in the new year. Emma and her friends hang out. She has adventures. I thought it was cool that they had a 12th day celebration, so you get to learn a little bit about that. She also has her birthday in January. It's actually today. Today is my brother's birthday, and it's Emma M. Lyon's birthday. They share a birthday. So now I can remember Emma M. Lyon's birthday forever. So happy birthday to Emma, who's fictional, but I'll celebrate her today because I think that's kind of fun. There are lots of talks of her with the 3 guy friends that she has become close to. I really enjoyed learning a little bit more about each of them. She has a bit of an adventure with Hawks, which a part of his character comes out in a different form than I feel we're used to. And I still think it's funny that he could get away with like reading poetry or whatever during sermons instead of really just teaching from the Bible. It's very interesting. He's funny, and you could tell that he's very caring. And then her relationship with Pierce is always so fascinating. And this is definitely a good one to read if you want to find out more about that. And her adventures with Islington, of course, the Duke. He gets to experience her aunt, then she gets to experience his aunt. So that was fun. I felt kind of badly for him and Hawks, who had to experience her aunt together. I was glad that her cousin wasn't in this one as much. That was nice because he's frustrating. Those are the things that stand out to me about this book and this story that I wanted to share. I didn't want to go deeply because it is the 6th book. If you haven't read the 1st book, please do. A great series. I love this series. Another arc that comes out February 17th is Birdie. This is middle grade story. I received this also from the publisher. It was very cute. It's about 2 siblings. Their mother dies. Very tragic. They get put into the foster care system. They jump around a little bit. They end up in this place in New York, in upstate New York. So it's a little bit more farmy, and they're used to New York City. So they're like, I don't know if we're gonna like this. They're not used to not having so much noise. Their names are May and Michael, but they go by Birdie and Mouse. Birdie has had a really hard time because she wants to feel like she belongs. She's tired of going from place to place, and she's afraid of getting too attached. She also wants people to ask her questions. So she's having that inner battle of, should I even bother making a relationship with these people? The people are so kind that she is living with. And then there's some other things that happen that some people that she's starting to make friends with. There is a little bully in it, but there is a character that gives her some wise advice. Very nice character, but it is a little weird because this person is a guy and he's 15 and she's 11. And so I'm like, why are they having a conversation? It's just a little awkward to me that they have this friendship. I wish that he was a little closer to her age because that's just like a little questionable for me. I wouldn't have wanted my 11-year-old, especially if I had a daughter, to hang out with a 15-year-old boy. There's talk about death in this book, and there's some theft and name calling. There are animals in it that I thought were fun. There's a raccoon, there are some dogs, there's a goat, there's some fun things that are baked in it. So, it's a very summery book, by the way. So if you want to read a book for the summer, I feel like this would be really good. But hey, you know what? There's probably pre-order. Have fun with it. This was picked out by my husband from my TBR jar best of 2025 video that I had. He is going to pick out for me another physical book. So you could see here, I don't have a lot of physical books. Some of these are Nook books too. And so he's going to choose my next one. This is the 2nd book of this Muir family series. What's the name of this? A Muir Harbor novel. Okay, so that's the name of the series. This was one of the best series I've read in a while, actually. I feel like it's not often that I will rate books in a series over 3 stars all the time. And this one, they were all like 4-star books. This was my favorite of the 3. The first book was in my best of 2025 list. If you don't know the story, it's basically there is this family. this older woman. She has a missing granddaughter. They never could find her. She was really young, and she's on the search for her. In the first book, there's someone that comes to a call for that missing person because she thinks maybe she is that person based off of the descriptions, and there is a picture from the past that tied them together. And there is a romance in it between one of the adopted children of the older woman who is looking for her granddaughter. So in this book, this is the perspective of another one of the adopted children. She has 3. This is the youngest of the adopted children. Her name is Indy. And so this is her story about her struggles that she has in life. She loves being adopted. She has no problem with that. She never questions where she came from or anything like that. But she has something that she's been carrying around with her, some pain and some hurt. When that stuff comes out, I was just like, wow, I didn't suspect such a thing. But this book starts out, it's very funny, but sad in a way too, because she has a fiance that she had not been with him too long. And he's breaking up with her on the spot while this man that has been looking for her grandmother overhears everything. And then because of a certain situation that took place at the same time, he drives her back home like about an hour away from one of her shops that she owns. And they get to know one another. And his name is Philip. So Indy and Philip, they form this bond. They start to learn about possible connections that they have because of her grandmother. And everyone thinks that he is her now ex-fiance because her family never met him. So they keep calling him by the name of the guy that she had just been broken up by. And he kind of plays along. He's starting to get fond of her. What I love is how the beginning of this story takes place pretty much at a part of the first book. And I loved how they tied in those bits, but it's like a whole new story, but you can go, hey, I remember when that like was in the background of the first book. So she takes background situations from the first book to make like, now we get Indy's like story, but it's completely different than what you would have thought. And you're like, huh, that's smart. I was very, very good. They didn't do that in the last book, but the way it worked in this was just so good. And this is great because it jumps to the new year. So this starts in autumn. This is the first book that I read in the year, and it's like perfect. And there is snow on this cover in case you didn't see it. I love this cover. It's so pretty. So yeah, this is just more investigation, but there is like a treasure hunt that is part of this. There's an old lore. They live in Maine. And so this lore about the Muir family comes around. People are looking for it. But then there's also the search for the granddaughter continues too. So it's just like a few things at once, trying to get to understand who Indy is and what her situations are like, and why she's in so much pain. But then you get all these, it's just like, it worked. And it was like always moving, and it was always enjoyable. I got so sucked into this book. It was so good. I started reading the third book, which I just finished this book yesterday. Wedding at Sea continues that story, but now it's the story of the other adopted sister, Lillian. Lillian, throughout these books, she has major issues with her older brother's best friend, who is just always around. His name is Wilder, and he's just always like hanging around, and he's the one that's a PI investigating to find the missing granddaughter. Now, she always had questioned who she was, to the point where she thought maybe she was the missing granddaughter. Probably comes up in a lot of people's thoughts throughout reading these books. She wants to find out more about her past while also trying to find this missing granddaughter's past. She is one of those people that likes to be in control. She is very scheduled minded, oriented, about what her day should be like every day. She works hard for a law firm. She's like a partner in it, and the boss wants to retire. So he's like, I want you to have help while I'm transitioning out. She's like, oh, why do you think I need help? So he says, hire someone. So she hires someone to help her out. And she's starting to enjoy that ability to have less workload. So she's starting to learn more about how she should slow down. And Wilder is a little bit more slowed down, but he is obsessed with this case that he's been trying to find for 3 years, that his father had started investigating for years and years. They are put together to plan this wedding for another character in the books. I'm not going to say who, because that will give things away. They were asked to be the planners, and they are really upset that they were both chosen to do this. They have to do it in only a few weeks, but they realize that they get along, even though they always argue with each other over things. And so Wilder's like, why are you always so mad at me? Their relationship, I really love how they communicate with each other. It's very good. The way this series ended, we did get answers to a lot of questions, which was great. The author had a note at the end saying there are some times where you can't get answers for certain things, and they just are up there in the air. And I wanted to make sure that that was true to life. Not everything is tied with a bow at the end, which was really cool. Now I want to talk about At the Water's Edge. Look, it's really cool. It's got like a dragon in the back, if you could see the dragon. So I have had this on my to read list for several years now, because when my best friend passed away, she had a whole bunch of books that she would talk to me about or that she really enjoyed, and this was one of them, and I wanted to read it. I did not know it was not a clean book. This is definitely has sexual content in it, so I'm warning you. I was not happy about that because I kind of trusted my friend to not lead me towards books like that. She was a Christian mother. Very weird to read some of the things in this, but it didn't even happen until like near the end, and I was kind of like, okay. I am a part of a book club that meets in person. They are women that I used to work out with, and so a whole bunch of them get together and we talk about books once a month. And I got to choose the book, and I chose this one, which probably worked out. They'll probably actually like it. So let me tell you what this book is about. This is set in the new year. Again, this is like perfect for the new year, the books that I had chosen. In the new year, these people, there is a woman named Maddie, and she has a husband, his best friend. They're like a trio, the three of them. They live in Philadelphia, and then they decide that they're going to go over to Scotland in the middle of World War II. They're going to go over there so that way they could find the Loch Ness Monster, because her husband's father was the one that took the photos that are very famous of Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster, which I thought that was cool that they put that in there. They go to Scotland by way of like a cargo ship. She starts to learn about her husband. He has a bunch of secrets, and he's not treating her well. She starts to realize that she had not ever thought about it. They've been married for like 3 years, but it all starts to come out where she sees his true colors. They kind of make a point of it that sometimes when you're searching for this monster that is talked about, you find real monsters. The story was very good, but the content was insane. If it weren't for the content, I would have given this 4 stars, but I gave it 2 3/4 stars because I always deduct in consideration of the content. So there's lots of language in this. There's sexual content, talk about pornographic materials. There's violence, mistreatment of women. Oh, and so I forgot to say one of the main parts of this story. The very beginning of this book starts out in Scotland. There is a woman. She lost her baby, pretty much stillborn, and her husband's away at war. They make a point that she takes her own life because she gets a letter that he is missing and they don't think he's alive. So that's the very, very beginning. And then it goes into this family. So Maddie starts to see the grave of that woman. And so it ties it all in, the story, and it was very unique. I did find some of the characters to be annoying. I do think there is another love situation in this where it didn't make sense to me. So yeah, it was just, there were some things in here that raised my eyebrow. I can't recommend it. So I'm letting you know what that stuff is in this book, so that way you could decide if you want to read it or not. If I could go back in time, if I had known, if my best friend had told me what was in it, I would have been like, oh, I'm not going to put that on my list then. Okay, but I need to talk to you about my first 5-star read of the year. Now, if you watched my last video where I talk about a vlog, a bit about this book, I was so touched by this story. This is an amazing story. Definitely a very lovely, fully Christian story, God throughout the entire thing. This is about a little girl. She lives in Switzerland. It starts off where her baby brother is born and she wants to take care of him. She is 7 years older. She absolutely loves him. Her name is Annette and her little brother is Daniel and she calls him Danny. But as they get a little bit older and her brother is like 6 or so, there's this bully named Lucian. He's very jealous of her because of her grades in school and just so many things that he causes a lot of issues. He ends up really causing major problems. But this is a story filled with redemption and love and grace and forgiveness. There is wisdom from her grandmother throughout this book. Lucian has this mountain man that teaches him how to whittle, and that man has so much wisdom and tells about his life story and is so heartbreaking and beautiful. The stuff that goes on in this, at first it was so incredibly sad, but then it just gets to be so good and I couldn't put it down. I sobbed. This is a middle grade book, and the author, she actually was a missionary for a long time, and she wrote this when she was like, I guess, older and was no longer doing all the work that she had been involved with. She was a missionary nurse for 27 years. There is some stuff about medical things in this. It's so hard to talk about this without giving away anything, because one of the main factors of what Lucian did, it's just like so horrible and pronounced in this book that I can understand why Annette has a hard time forgiving him. But what I love is that she does something really not so nice back to Lucian. and she starts to feel horrible. So they both have this guilt and the shame because they realize they did wrong and they feel like they can't take it back. And so they suffer because of that unforgiveness in their hearts, and it makes them a little bit bitter. So they have to learn to find Jesus to help them realize they can change and grow. It's so good, guys. I love this. I am so glad that I started out my year with such a good book that I gave it 5 stars and sobbed my little eyes out. Oh, it was inspiring. Now for content, there is talk about drunkenness, never talked about in a good way. There's talk about gambling. With the bullying, there is some violence between the kids. They do things that are not so nice to each other. And it's really, some of it is pretty crazy and so sad. I think this would be good for if you have a kid that's 8, 10, like in between that time. From that age up, I think up through the age of being very, very old, read this book. Also in my last video, I talked about Bleak House, and you know what? So I don't remember when I recorded that video, but I had already started Bleak House. It's a huge book, guys. It was like 900 pages or something. So I finished it on the 12th day. It is slow at times, just so you guys know. If you read Bleak House, there are moments where it's quite slow, but it's also interesting to me, even though there are those moments. The amount of characters, I just told my husband this morning, I don't think I've ever read a book with so many characters in it, but this was just like, I struggle to remember all the different characters and stories. So this was hard for me at times, but they had weird names. So that kind of helped because they were like funny names. Here's some of the names like Jellaby, Smallweed, Snagsby, Crook, Bucket, Turvy Drop, Mr. Guppy. Where is he getting these names from? Hey, you know, it was creative. So let me tell you about this story. It starts out talking about Jarndyce and Jarndyce, which also is such a weird name. It's a lawsuit and is held up in very high court where there is a man named Tom Jarndyce who dies, and he has a will, but he has several wills and they don't know which one might be the real one, if some of them are even real. So this is like years and years of going through this lawsuit. And his nephew, John Jarndyce, is such a great character, by the way. Throughout this book, he has a voice of wisdom. He is so caring for the poor, for those around him, and he doesn't care at all about this lawsuit. He's just like, okay, whatever, let's just let it go. And he just lives his life. He's not concerned at all. And I love that he's just like, whatever. He's not worried about the financial parts. He has his own good finances. But the other people involved in this are kind of hoping to get their inheritance, and they're really pushing for it. Wait, another part of this story, which we get a perspective of Esther. Esther is the sweetest. She has absolutely like pretty much no problems throughout this story. She is what we all would strive to be like as a person with her attitude. She is very much like John Jarndyce, and so I'm going to explain why. When this lawsuit starts, John Jarndyce takes in 2 grandchildren of his uncle, so that means his like second cousins basically. He takes them in. They are young. Their names are Ada and Richard, and they are both cousins to each other. So Ada and Richard are cousins, first cousins. But then he also adopts this other girl whose name is Esther. She is to be a companion for Ada. So they become really good friends to the point where I just love it. It's so sweet. She calls her my dear, my darling, my dear one. And I think that's really, really cute. I feel like I can understand like the friendship so deep that you would say like my and call them dear or darling. Richard becomes very obsessed with this lawsuit. He wants to know a lot more. He's just always wanting to know. John is like, don't worry about it. Let it do its thing. Try to find what you want to do for a living. And he's trying to encourage him. Sometimes he changes what he wants to do with his life. So they're young, but the years go by and this lawsuit is still going on. Esther becomes a head housekeeper. She's like the mistress of Bleak House. That is the name of the estate, by the way, Bleak House. John explains why it's called Bleak House, but I don't want to explain. You'd have to read the book for that. John and Esther, they are so very much like that they get along very well. She calls him her guardian throughout the entire story. But then there's also this woman named Lady Dedlock, and she's married. She lives in their estate called Chesney Wold. Her story is very, very sad. So I need to just explain there are so many side stories in this story. You have to try to follow why is this important, and then later on it will come up again and you're like, okay, here's this character again. But I really love how it was written. Charles Dickens is an amazing writer. I love his writing. Is just magnificent. His care for what real life was like during that time and how he was able to try to explain why the poor are important and why we have to help them. And so John Jarndyce is always trying to help people around him. So yeah, there is a lot of legal jargon in this book, which is kind of frustrating because I'm like, let me try to follow this. I think I got some of it, but some of it went over my head, to be honest. I will say Mr. Guppy, he is so annoying in this book, and Esther is so patient with him. He is a pain. I find like some of these characters were either like, whoa, I don't like this person, and like, oh, they're shady, or they're just like, oh, I feel so sad for them, or it's like, wow, they're so great. Those are the main ones to remember. So I was trying to figure out how can I condense this to explain to you guys about this book. It was really good. I really liked it. I thought the ending was not bleak, but beautiful. There were some sad things in the ending, but there were also many happy things. And some things that you're like, what? But I can't explain why, because that will give away something important. There were some weird things in it too. It's a great book. If you want to read a classic, I'm glad I got my Dickens done with for the year, and maybe I'll add another one later on if I get through all my other books I've planned for the year. But Bleak House was great. I definitely like this better than Tale of Two Cities, which I read last year. And the last book to talk about, this is The Daughters of Madurai. This is set in India and Australia. It's both, but mainly in India. This also I lowered for the rating because of content, but the story is so deep and beautiful and so hard that that's why I got a lower rating. It's just too much. It's like, wow, this is mainly dealing with infanticide. There is a lot of that. So if you don't know some of the rules in India, there's the caste system, but there's also where women are not very valued there. Throughout this story, we have one of the main characters. She is a mother. She is a wife. She has a daughter. And she is allowed to keep her daughter, but then her family, she needs to have a boy. But because she keeps getting pregnant, if it is not a boy, it is not important. So there is a lot of death, and it is very, very difficult. A lot of these baby girls, how they are treated is just awful. This one will make you very upset. That might be a major trigger for you guys to learn. So this mother, she is doing her best to care for her children. She loves each one of her children, but she has like no control over being able to keep a lot of her children. Her mother-in-law is an awful person, and those around her get upset with her. She has some people in her life that are really great to her though. She grew up with this one guy that they were really good friends, and he is so nice to her, and his family is so kind to her too. Her grief and how she goes through things, but the treatment of this woman is just awful, guys. It's so sad. But then her daughter, we get the perspective of her whiny daughter who is a spoiled girl, and she doesn't understand why she is a little bit controlled by her mother because she has no idea about her mother's past. And she has a brother, both treated very well. But this girl, she has a degree, she has a great job, she has someone that she really cares for, and she's afraid her mom won't want her to get married. She doesn't understand her mother, and she's just annoying because you want to shake her and be like, you have no idea what your mother has gone through. So she starts to learn a little bit about her mother, but not until like nearer to the end. Hearing the stories, especially of the mother in this, is just so good but devastating. And so for content wise, there is sort of a sexual scene, but it's not described, but you know there is sex involved. And it's more like she just gives in to her husband is basically how I can sum that up. So there is that. Still too much. There's a lot of death, a lot of horrible death, guys. Between 5 and 7 words in this that are not good words. The dual perspective was very well done. The daughter's perspective, I didn't really care for her perspective most of the time. So the point of his story is that the mother and daughter, they go back to India from Australia, that where they've been living, as well as her husband. And I don't think her son comes with them to India. Her husband's father is dying, so they have to go to say their goodbyes. They haven't been there in many years. So this stirs up memories of life in India for the mother. And while the young girl's like, I don't know anything about my family and I want to meet them. And why do they seem to not want to see some of their family? And why can't I go out anywhere? And why in India am I not allowed to go for a run? Like very much she doesn't understand India and life there, but she wants to know, and no one's telling her things. But some of the content was important to get an understanding of what life would be like for a woman like the main character. Okay, guys, I'm going to get my husband in here to pick out my next maybe 2 physical books would be good. That's what I think I'll do. Just so you see, there's not a lot in there. All right, choose 2 for me, please. Come on in. You're not even in the picture. Come on in. Say hi to the people.
Hi to the people.
Thank you for being my picker today.
So number 1, Fight Like Jesus. Number 2, In Pursuit of Love.
Here, hold it for me on the side.
That side. That's what she wants. So these 2.
Yes, and these are pretty intense ones, so that will be interesting. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so I'll be reading these soon, and I have some from the library I'm getting soon, too. You will see these coming up. This one's a theological book, and this one is a book about human trafficking issues, so very intense times for my reading. I like to kind of mix things up. We'll see how it goes. Thank you so much today for being here with this long video. Have a wonderful day. Bye!